I'm Katie Couric. A stunning day at the G8 summit with breakthroughs that leave world leaders shaking their heads. President Putin makes President Bush a surprise offer. He'll accept a U.S. missile shield over Eastern Europe, but on his terms. And on environmental matters, could the Bush administration be turning green? Also tonight, U.S. helicopters in Iraq knock out enemy positions near Sadr City. And one of America's most feared enemies again surfaces on Iraqi television. Here at home, outrage over celebrity justice as Paris Hilton checks out of prison after just 3 days.
We see two standards of justice, one for the rich and famous and one for the poor.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. Some big surprises today at the G8 summit. Russian President Putin made President Bush an offer that could end their dispute over U.S. plans for a missile defense shield over Eastern Europe. And President Bush gave some ground on limiting greenhouse gases, all on day 2 of this 3-day summit in Germany. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Jim Axelrod is there. Jim?
Katie, normally these summits are a ton of talk and not a whole lot of action. That was not the case today. The White House went further than it ever has before on climate change. And President Bush and Russian President Putin pulled way back on their overheated rhetoric. After days of high-tension, Cold War finger-pointing over a U.S. missile defense system, Mr. Bush and Vladimir Putin met the cameras with friendly faces today.
There's a lot of people who don't like it when Russia and the United States argue, and it creates tensions.
But Putin threw a curveball at the president, offering to drop his opposition to the defense system if the U.S. used a radar in the former Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan instead of planned installations in NATO allies Poland and the Czech Republic.
If we make this work transparent and if we provide for an equal access to this system, then we will have to the management of this system, then we will have no problems.
But Mr. Bush kicked it down the road to next month's U.S.-Russia summit.
I told Vladimir we're looking forward to having up to my folks' place in Maine in the beginning of July.
There were some highly visible clashes today. In the Baltic Sea, just offshore from the summit site, boats belonging to the environmental activist group Greenpeace burst through the security perimeter. Police boats gave chase, running over 2 of the protesters. Amazingly, no one was seriously hurt. Ironically, the G8 leaders did reach agreement on a critical environmental issue, setting long-term goals on global warming. We will consider seriously at least a halving of global emissions by 2050. This fell short of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's hope for a consensus on mandatory greenhouse gas reductions. But just being open to the idea is further than the Bush administration has gone before. The Putin proposal appeared to catch the White House by surprise. The president's aides immediately huddled up, began to figure out how to respond. They made no commitments, saying only that everything will be up on the table when the two presidents meet in Kennebunkport next month. Katie?
Jim Axelrod. Jim, thank you. Richard Haas is with the Council on Foreign Relations. So, Richard, is Putin's offer a good one in your view?
Well, it's clearly an attempt by Putin to lower the temperature, but he hasn't, Katie, dropped his opposition to the U.S. missile deployment plans. I think it's also important to remember here that we're talking about a missile system that hasn't been proven to work against a threat that doesn't yet exist. So there's an air of politics and unreality about all of this.
Having said that, Richard, do you think President Bush will take Vladimir Putin up on his offer?
In and of itself, it's not enough, but the idea that it would contribute potentially to the system would be okay, but it's not a substitute to what the U.S. has talked about.
And when is this thing going to be built?
Well, again, it's not a proven system. The Iranian threat, if it ever comes to exist, may not exist for 5 or 10 more years, so there's no specific timeline or start date.
Meanwhile, Richard, the group of world leaders agreed to consider substantial cuts in the gas emissions that have been blamed for global warming. Is the Bush administration suddenly going green?
I'd say they're probably going light green. They're no longer fighting the science. The president now acknowledges that global warming is a real threat, but there's no consensus yet on the remedy. That's probably something, Katie, more for his successor, for the next president, than it is for this administration.
And there's no commitment to mandatory reductions, but they may be coming at some point.
That's exactly right. My hunch is they will come. The bigger problem may not be the U.S. government. The bigger problem may be actually India and China.
Richard Haas of the Council on Foreign Relations. Richard, thank you so much. Turning now to the war in Iraq, the U.S. military announced today an American soldier was killed yesterday by a roadside bomb in southwest Baghdad. The American death toll now tops 3,500 as U.S. troops are now taking the battle right to a Baghdad stronghold, Sadr City. Our chief foreign correspondent, Lara Logan, is there.
In his first interview since the U.S. surge began, anti-American cleric Muqtada al-Sadr went on state-run TV and blamed all of Iraq's problems on U.S. forces. If there were no tanks and no fighting jets, there would be no violence in Iraq, he said. That's ironic, coming from the leader of the country's most notorious militia, the Mehdi Army. Sadr's comments are being watched closely by U.S. intelligence because he's the one man in this country who can single-handedly affect the success of the U.S. surge. That's why U.S. troops have finally moved into Sadr City, setting up a joint security station just on the edge of Sadr's Baghdad stronghold. From here, the U.S. military says it now controls about a quarter of Sadr City, a sprawling urban slum that's home to nearly 3 million people. This video from the U.S. military shows an American attack helicopter destroying rockets set up to fire at the Green Zone from a soccer field next to Sadr City. 82nd Airborne soldiers have also started projects to clean up the streets and improve living conditions for the residents here. But the top Iraqi general working with them admits that Sadr City's local leaders won't even talk to the U.S. soldiers. Colonel John Castle says that's because they've been intimidated by extremist elements of Sadr's militia, but he's hoping to overcome that.
What I would like to see is a closer relationship, particularly with some of the local governments, and trying to expand, what we can do in this area beyond the quarter where we are right now, to all the way through.
So far, Sadr has tolerated the U.S. presence here and avoided direct military confrontation. But that may change as U.S. forces continue to target his militia and move deeper into his home base. Lara Logan, CBS News, Sadr City, Baghdad.
And everyone wants to know where things are headed in Iraq with the troop buildup. We got an answer today on Capitol Hill in the form of an early report card, and it's not a good one. Here's David Martin.
It started as a routine confirmation hearing for the Army general picked to become the president's new war czar. But then Senator Bai unexpectedly unveiled the latest intelligence assessment on the war.
The trend in Iraq is negative. That there are occasional bright spots, for example, some developments in Al Anbar province, but that those positive developments are within the context of an overall negative trend.
In Al Anbar province, local sheikhs have come over to the American side against al-Qaeda, and attacks are half what they were a year ago. But Lieutenant General Lute didn't really disagree that the overall trend is negative.
I share that at best the progress has been uneven.
Bai went on to reveal that top intelligence officials remain pessimistic about whether Iraqi politicians can reconcile the country's warring factions.
Where's the sense of urgency? Their country's at risk of falling apart, and they just don't seem to grasp the need to move forward here in material ways.
Senator, my assessment would be that they have a very full agenda and have shown so far very little progress.
And the chances the American troop surge will suppress Iraq's violence are slim.
We were also told that the state of the insurgency, the level of violence and that sort of thing, was in all likelihood going to be about where it is today a year from now.
Al-Qaeda has been singled out as the #1 enemy in Iraq, and Bai quoted the CIA's top expert as making this gloomy statement.
In his opinion, our presence in Iraq is creating more members of Al-Qaeda than we are killing in Iraq.
Those assessments were made by a high-level panel called the National Intelligence Council and represent the views of all this country's intelligence agencies. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
On Wall Street, the sell-off continues. Concern over interest rates sent the Dow plummeting nearly 200 points today. So in the past 3 days, the Dow has lost more than 400 points. There is much more CBS News ahead. The phones are ringing off the hook in Los Angeles, protesting celebrity justice and the advance that could end the bitter debate over embryonic stem cell research. That compromise immigration bill in the Senate is in trouble tonight. There's a crucial test vote scheduled, and if it fails, the bill could be dead, at least for the time being. Supporters spent the day trying to salvage the deal, which would tighten the borders while giving millions of illegal immigrants a path toward legal status. Also on Capitol Hill, the House set the stage today for another showdown with President Bush by voting to spend more money, more federal money, on embryonic stem cell research. The president promises a veto, and supporters don't have the votes to override it. But the controversy over stem cells may one day disappear thanks to a new scientific advance. Here's our medical correspondent, Dr. John LaPook.
It was front-page news today. Scientists announced a breakthrough that could calm the ethical storm over stem cell research, with a technique that produces the equivalent of embryonic stem cells without having to destroy human embryos.
We can take adult cells and convert them back into an embryonic state that can then create a whole animal. And it's an extraordinary breakthrough.
Scientists inserted 4 genes into the skin cells of a mouse, making them act like embryonic stem cells, the type that can then develop into many different cells of the body, such as those found in the pancreas, heart, and brain. The hope is to use stem cells to understand and treat disease.
I think it holds enormous potential, and there won't be the controversy of the funds being used to take the lives of human beings.
But nobody knows when this technique can be used with human cells.
We've certainly not solved any kind of debate. If anything, we've stirred the pot a bit. We've certainly given scientists many, many more tools to work with, to experiment with.
This development has not deterred Congress from calling on President Bush to ease the restrictions on human embryonic stem cell research.
Today, Speaker Pelosi and I send the bill to the president. And it's not too late for him to do the right thing.
For now, the work with stem cells derived from embryos will continue in labs funded, for the most part, with private money.
The researchers I spoke to all agree on one thing. Whether the stem cells come from skin, embryos, or some other source, they want as many as possible, so they can try to figure out how to unleash their healing powers. Dr. John LaPook, CBS News, New York.
From science to history, in a long-forgotten letter the National Archives just discovered buried in its vast collection. A letter from President Lincoln urging his generals to go after Robert E. Lee's army after the Union victory at Gettysburg. July 7, 1863, Lincoln tells Major General Halleck that if General Meade can complete his work so gloriously prosecuted thus far and defeat Lee's army, the rebellion will be over. A week after Lincoln sent that note, the Confederate Army crossed the Potomac into Virginia, and the war went on 2 more years. Coming up next, springtime for Paris. Paris Hilton is sprung from prison early, and a lot of people are saying it's a double standard for celebrities. The bar for outrage over celebrity behavior is set pretty high in Hollywood these days, but Paris Hilton's very early release from jail has brought howls of protests and cries of a double standard. City officials in Los Angeles have been flooded with phone calls, and the county supervisor has called for an investigation. Bill Whitaker has the latest.
You almost can't help but know that celebrity socialite Paris Hilton has been considered a girl gone wild, then a girl gone to jail. But now that she's a girl gone home after just 3 days behind bars, a fed-up public is going ballistic.
We feel that Paris Hilton got a free get-out-of-jail card today by manipulating and using her celebrity status to get out of jail.
From the blogosphere to the legal sphere, criticism of Paris is burning.
It's not equal justice for all.
After one more red carpet traipse, the 26-year-old heiress turned herself in early Monday morning to serve 45 days in this 12-by-8 cell for violating probation on a drunk driving charge. Today, the LA County Sheriff sent her home to her 2,700 square foot mansion in the Hollywood Hills, citing unspecified medical reasons.
It is not an early release. It is a reassignment. She is still in custody. She has an ankle bracelet, electronic monitoring, and she's confined to her home.
To critics, the ankle bracelet is just another Paris fashion accessory.
Had it been me, and I had like a medical condition, they would have sent me to County General. They have a facility in here, and I would have been right back in my cell.
The truth is, the last 5 years in LA County, more than 200,000 inmates have been released early. Because of prison overcrowding, the vast majority serve less than 10% of their sentences. But a quick in and out medical release like Paris Hilton's, rare.
When the constitutional founding fathers put the phrase, all men are created equal, into the Constitution, Hollywood had not yet been invented.
The Reverend Al Sharpton is coming to LA to protest this so-called celebrity injustice in front of Hilton's house. He'll have to push aside the press. Meanwhile, in a statement, Ms. Hilton says she hopes others learn from her mistakes. The question tonight, has she? Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Hollywood.
In other news, quick work by police in Kansas today, only a day after they found the body of missing 18-year-old Kelsey Smith. A suspect appeared in court. Appearing on a video feed from jail, 26-year-old Edwin Hall was charged with kidnapping and murder. Surveillance tapes show the restaurant worker and father of one leaving a local store last Saturday night. The suspect was seen leaving soon afterward. Coming up next, an extraordinary act of kindness saves the lives of some former star athletes. But first, we continue our series, Advice to Graduates, highlights from this year's commencement addresses. Tonight, a few words about achieving personal fulfillment.
Happiness. Happiness is a little more elusive. You can have success without being truly happy. I say you can only be truly happy if you are proud of yourself and the way you got your success.
Too many people today are focused on the word me rather than the word we. Too many people are focused on what they want today rather than what we need to do to help ensure a better tomorrow. And too many people are focused on their own narrow interest rather than the greater good.
The most important lesson I can offer you from my own life is that in order to remain successful, to continue to wear the crown, as you walk the path of privilege, you must not forget the less privilege you've left behind. You cannot continue to succeed in the world or have a fulfilling life in the world unless you choose to use your life in service somehow to others and give back what you have been given. That's how you keep it, that's how you get it, that's how you grow it.
That's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.